Thank you, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order of the DuPage County Home Advisory Group. Roll call, please.
Don Bastian.
Here.
Ruth Roder. Amy Chavez.
Here.
Lori Chassie.
Here.
Michael Crandall.
Here.
Paul Garcia.
Here.
William Hennep.
Here.
Kevin Mantles.
Here.
Lynn LaPlante.
Here.
Felicia Page. Donald Pachowski. Julie Renahan.
Here.
James A.
So we have a quorum. Thank you. Any public comment? Seeing, hearing none, we'll look for approval of the minutes. Motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Just one housekeeping matter regarding calling the meeting to order and the agenda. And roll call, please.
Okay. Lori Chassie.
Aye.
Amy Chavez.
Aye.
Don Bastian.
Aye.
Michael Crandall.
Aye.
Paula Garcia.
Aye.
William Hennep.
Aye.
Kevin Mantles.
Aye.
Lynn LaPlante.
Aye.
Julie Renahan.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is an informational item. Affordable housing GIS presentation that'll be done by staff.
Yep, Dave's gonna do this.
Okay.
So I sent you all a link. I'm going to share it and put it up on the board now. First, I wanted to give you the context of this. So in a big picture, in terms of what we do in CD, I'm pretty happy, and credit to the manager and staff, but I'm pretty happy with the progress we've made on CDBG in terms of some of the changes that we made. I'm pretty happy with the CARES Act projects that have gone on. We've had some major projects that have gone through. We still have a lot of work in both of those categories, but I guess the point of this presentation was that the next big challenge for our group is going to be affordable housing 100%. Like that's just very clearly written out for us in front of us. So before we start bringing items forth to you about affordable housing or about, for example, the $6.5 million in American Rescue Plan Act dollars that we got to put towards affordable housing, I wanted to just show everything that we have currently in our portfolio. I always think affordable housing is one of those terms that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. This is really just what the county has been involved with. There is a much broader array of affordable housing out there in the community done by various partners. This is just what county has been invested in over the last, most of these projects would be 20 years or less. So there's a affordability period attached depending on the dollars involved. The first thing I liked when I looked at this map is just, you can see the geographic spread is pretty good. That's a good sign, right? So we're in all the different county board regions, we're in a lot of different communities. And then as you can zoom in, this is interactive. This was put together by our GIS. So you can zoom in and see individual projects and see how many units of housing are in there, see what particular, this is, for example, the most recent Alden one. So there were 71 total units in the property. We are involved in 16 of those units. So 16 of those units are considered home units that received our funding and are supported by us. The other 71 is typically layered financing for home projects, which means there's typically multiple funders involved. But in this situation, 71 units are affordable. We're personally involved in 16. The other 55 are funded through another means. So you can see, I mean, obviously you can move around the map, you can see your various areas. There's ways you can sort it over here on the left if you want to see, for example, just a certain county board district or a certain zip code or a certain city. You can sort it by the size, number of units. You can look at the developers. So like I said, this email was sent out, this link was sent out yesterday. Idea being just that you have a sense of what we have currently involved. I need to zoom out on this here somehow. Idea being that you can see what we have currently in our portfolio, and then, like I said, we are going to be bringing forth the most pressing of which is the $6.5 million of home ARPA funding. We also, too, our annual allocation for home is around $2 million. It went up this past year. We received our allocations for 2022, and it went up by about 150,000, I think, 168,000. We have currently around 6 million in previous year allocations that still need to be allocated to a project. I was talking with Mr. Crandall before the meeting. I mean, it was disappointing news for us. So the state tax credits were announced this past month, and one of our large projects that we had $3.5 million we were hoping to spend in it did not get the state tax credits. So again, with that layered financing, they need that and our money to go through with the project. It sort of is on hold until they get. So they're going to try again. They're going to try it again next year. But we were hoping to spend $3.5 million on that project, and now it's going to be at least delayed by a year. So that's disappointing. But we kind of have a follow all leads approach with affordable housing. So anytime there's any kind of project going on, we tend to be home funds with our allocation amount is, we tend to be kind of the gap financing. So if they get a kind of, we're not the largest player in a large housing development. We can do some single site things. We do some things with Chad, which you'll see on here too. So some of these are not, they're not all large rental properties. Some of these are single site properties that we worked with Chad primarily to develop or to help them acquire it or to help them rehab it or whatever it is. But the big projects tend to take more than one financing, and we tend to be the primary partner. So they get the state tax credits, that's kind of the big fish, and we are gap financing to help the whole project come together. So we are going to be having, we've already been having internal discussions about this $6.5 million. There's a formal plan that we need to bring forth to you to submit to HUD. We're anticipating that for August. It's possible that could get delayed. Guidance is kind of still coming out, so it's possible that could get delayed some, but I can tell you from what we've seen so far, the needs assessment work that we've done for that, the overwhelming need is for more affordable housing capacity. That's what we hear over and over again. For example, the permanent shelter that we've purchased is almost full already, or is often running at capacity. There's going to be a need for more places for individuals to transition to. And so developing affordable housing capacity is going to be this department, or our department's main focus over the next couple of years. The other thing I wanted to touch on, I'm just reviewing my notes. So there's monitoring that goes on with all of this too. So just that to ensure that this is maintaining its affordable housing. So all of these projects that are displayed on the map are monitored by our staff. There's a risk analysis that they do to determine how many in-person monitoring they do, what they can do as a desk review. The idea is they're ensuring that this housing is maintained as affordable, which means they're charging appropriate rents, they're deducting appropriate utility allowances, their tenant selection plan is approved, they have appropriate leases. There's a lot of steps that go into maintaining that as affordable housing. But I should have highlighted two on this before there's also a summary. This is the total number of units in the county. So we have 950 home units that are currently kind of in our portfolio, and then 1,478 units that are in projects that we were involved with. So that's like that example of Alden, where we had 16 and there were 71 in the area. So what does the future look like? So we're going to need more developers. We're going to need more properties. We're going to need more. It's sort of not well, I guess not an odd situation for the last 2 years, but we have resources. We have a clear need, so those parts are taken care of. But we're going to need developers. We're going to need properties. Those are kind of always the challenges in DuPage County. We're sort of it's a little bit, even from a funding perspective. So the city of Chicago's allocation is probably 8 times ours, which means they can do more projects that are standalone and don't require other financing. We're kind of in a situation where, based on our allocation, we often need to combine those different sources of financing to get a project through. And the only other thing I would note is, well, 2 more things, I guess. So one is we would love to do, like to the point I made to Mr. Crandall, we would love to do more multifamily. So we've done a lot of seniors projects over the years, which is fine. That's always a need. That's always something we'll be involved with. We'd love to see more multifamily kind of family age housing. And then the other thing, the other asset that we have that's really working to our advantage, we have really good staff who are experienced with this, who know how to work through these applications, who know how to work through the intricate financing that's been involved in setting up these projects. So that's an asset that we have in our favor too. But today I wanted to share this link and just kind of put it up there so you can see what it looks like. And then I guess it's really a preface to future items, things that will be coming down the road in the next, in the short term, but then also over the next 2-3 years. I just think this is going to be a major focus. So that's what I had. Mary, if you have anything you'd like to add, please, by all means.
The only thing I would touch on is, Dave talked about monitoring, which is a huge responsibility. And over the last couple of years, we brought a number of modifications to reduce the affordability period to the sort of the federal minimum. The reason for that really is the obligation to continue to monitor these projects. When you look at all of the resources that we get from HUD, be it CDBG or home, it's been nearly flat for the last 15 or 20 years. And so our administrative allocation is a percentage of that. And so staffing costs have increased significantly over the last 15 years, but basically the amount of money we get for administration has been a flat amount, basically. So that's one of the main drivers. I mean, you look at 950 units, and we don't have to inspect every single one every single year, but it's an enormous portfolio to be able to manage. I think I want to say that our HUD specialist a couple of years ago told me that DuPage has far and above a larger number of units than many other participating jurisdictions in this region, just because of the way we've approached making sure that we kind of get the maximum number of units in a project that we can. So I think that's all I have to add. I think this is a great map. I hope that you'll, you can really, hopefully there's, you'll click on there and you'll go, I didn't know that was an affordable housing unit. So great job with our GIS department and our community development department working together.
And if you have any questions about individual units that are maybe in your municipality or individual projects or anything like that, please feel free to send it. We're happy to provide kind of where they are in the process or how long they've been there, that kind of thing.
Oh, Dave also mentioned CHAD. I just want to make sure that people know what CHAD is. It's not a who. CHAD is Community Housing Advocacy. They used to be called Community Housing Association of DuPage, and now it's Community Housing
and Development.
Advocacy and Development. They're an affordable housing developer that kind of specializes in single family homes and duplexes, townhomes, small developments, and we've worked with them for a number of years. So we have a lot of smaller projects with them scattered throughout the county.
Yeah, per policy right now, they're the only community housing development organization in DuPage County, which means about 15% of our annual allocation is really dedicated to them each year. So that's something in the neighborhood of $275,000 to $300,000 a year that they get to support mostly single family housing.
I have a question. I know you alluded to the fact that there's many different types of affordable housing, like subcategories and everything. But can you speak to accessible housing? I know that that's something that's being talked a lot about in my district, about making sure that people who are maybe aging out of their parents' home or youth services for different developmental disabilities, they're also needing affordable and sustainable housing to be able to stay near their families and the community in which they have grown up. Is that a part of this, or can you point to any of those projects?
Sure. I would say it is included in some of the projects and not included in other projects. So it depends kind of as the project is developing, whether that developer and whether maybe the community at that time identifies that it's important. They can set aside, we have a project, for example, that I think sets aside 10 units as accessible. So those units have to be maintained as accessible for the duration of the project. I'm sure we have other projects that just don't have those in there and are just standalone projects.
Let me chime in there. So projects for like individuals with disabilities, SILAs, community integrated living arrangements, those are typically funded under CDBG because under the home program, individuals must have their own lease. That's part of the, so if it's in the old vernacular of a group home, that would not be eligible under home, but it would be eligible under CDBG. So we definitely have many SILAs that we've been involved with. They actually would not be in here, right? Because Dave, this is strictly home units.
So just that, okay.
Right.
So I would love at some point to like sort of see side by side if we can. Is that something that we can do? Kind of bring those two?
Yeah, Marge and I can work on that. So we would look at SILAs that have received CDBG support, but then also how many units in here are accessible units, because sometimes there are.
Exactly.
I know Maple Court, the one we just pressed, I think it was Maple Court.
Yeah, well, so Maple Court was a project that we did probably at least 25 years ago in Naperville, and I believe 50% of those, it's a large development, it was specifically for individuals with disabilities. I think at least 50% of those are fully accessible.
Okay. That would be interesting.
And I believe most of the developments we've done recently, particularly the senior developments, they all meet certain visibility standards, but then a particular percentage of the units. A lot of it is it's based on what the developer knows about the market demand.
Thank you.
Any other comments from anyone?
Random question for my knowledge. There's 3 units listed being outside DuPage.
So good question. Aurora used to be part of our home advisory group. Their money used to be pooled with our money. 2008, I think Marge said they left that group and became their own independent place. So now they get their own money, they do their own thing. But we have to follow the project to the end of its life.
That makes sense.
I knew Marge, I knew that question would come up. I asked.
Any others? Well, thank the staff for their time and effort to put together. I had a chance to play with this a little bit, and it's a great resource to have out there. And we get additional questions about the programs and actually puts an easier face to, rather than just coming up with a matrix. So I think that this is something that makes it very easy to explain to constituents and people in the community as far as what's going on. So I do appreciate your time and effort on all that. Any other business? Okay, look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and our next meeting date, should I put an asterisk after July 5th, 2022 at this point?
It's possible, yeah.
Okay.
Possible cancellation.
It's possible that will be canceled.
Okay.
It's possible that I won't be here.
I will
It's not
definitely be
here.
here.
There.
I'll be in Paris on July 5th.
Nice.
I won't be zooming in or anything. No.
Good call.
We'll just come to Paris.
Yeah, we'll just, I'm sorry, golf be remote.
Yeah.
Okay, well, with that news, we'll start the DuPage County CDC Executive Committee. Roll call, please.
Don Bastian.
Here.
Amy Chavez.
Here.
Lori Sassy.
Here.
Michael Crandall.
Here.
Paula Garcia.
Here.
William Henneth.
Here.
Kevin Mantles.
Here.
Lynn LaPlante.
Here.
Felicia Page. Donald Pachowski. Julie Renahan. James A.
Thank you. We have a forum and any public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to the approval of the minutes. Looking for a motion.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Lynn LaPlante.
Aye.
Amy Chavez.
Aye.
Don Bastian.
Aye.
Lori Sassy.
Aye.
Michael Crandall.
Aye.
Paula Garcia.
Aye.
William Henneth.
Aye.
Kevin Mantles.
Aye.
Julie Renahan.
Aye.
Thank you. 2 informational items. The first one is single family rehab project number 1778. Staff want to offer a comment on that?
Sure, so per policy, if it's a $15,000 grant program, per policy, if we go over $15,000, we're required to notify you. This program, first and foremost, we have a new hire who's doing great and he's jumping in and he's helping us out with this. The program has been through a lot of ups and turns, ups and downs in the last 3 years. It was someone that abruptly left and then COVID happened and it's just sort of been an up and down ride. We have about 12 files now of people that had work started or had started the process with the person in 2019. And so I guess I'm a little more lenient with those people because they've been patient and they've worked through the process. And so in this situation, I was able to work with the individual. We went slightly over, but we addressed their primary need and we took off a part of the scope that I thought wasn't justified and would have put us way too far over. But so at this point, the policy is that there's staff have some leeway in terms of projects going slightly over 15,000, but we're required to notify you when they do. So that's what this is.
I'll offer a question. In light of supply chain, costs of construction, everything like that, do you see this becoming more and more prevalent?
Well, so
At least as you finish out the existing ones.
yes, I think there will be more of these as we finish out the existing ones. The threshold we're always conscious of is the threshold of which if we go over a certain threshold, we're required to mitigate all lead on the property. So we want to stay short of that because that can be a very expensive proposition. That's $25,000 of rehab expenses. So we will always try to stay short of that, but there's a little leeway in between for projects like this, right? So this person, if they would have bid this job in 2019, would have gotten a much better number than they did bidding it this February. And so, yes, there's going to be some of that where I expect at least 1 or 2 more of these in the next couple months.
Any comments for anyone else? Okay, thank you. And then the other informational item, the community development block grant projects quarterly update.
Right, so usually I just give a high level report on this. So I would say the good news from my perspective. So first of all, credit to staff again, and credit to their manager for working through a lot of these projects. We have no 2019 projects anymore. All of those are gone. We have one 2020 project. That's good news. And then the 2021, most of the municipal projects are all in the process of getting going or have their, selecting a contract. They should happen this construction season. The other thing we have is we did receive our allocations from HUD. We're getting the paperwork signed by the chairman, but we're close to getting our actual dollars for 2022, which could be good news for our 22 projects. If they can hit this construction season, then we're in very good shape in terms of CDBG. So there was a cut to CDBG funding of around 250,000, but we had a couple of projects that had come in under, and we were able to work things out, so no projects were impacted in terms of 2022. So everyone who thought they were getting money in 2022 is still getting money, still getting the same amount. Like I said in my intro to the home meeting, I'm really pleased with the progress staff has made on kind of getting caught up on some old money and getting projects to where we're currently dealing with just one 2021 projects. And then, so average is kind of a year behind in some ways. So once 2021 projects is this should be the year. If we can do them early or can do them sooner than that, great. But last year we didn't get our money from HUD until like August or September. So there was no chance they were going to start a construction project and then winter was going to hit. But all in all, I think good progress. And then the other, so that's my report on that. And then we'll talk about public service under other business.
Any questions in the presentation? Okay, then let's move to other business. Discussion regarding the FY 2023-2024 home service application.
Right, so you had asked for two pieces of information last time. Let me pass this around. One was a list of all the public service recipients for 2021 and 2022. That was in your packet. The other document that I'm passing around is we have talked about average salaries for positions that we're paying for, and it was requested that they do. I did take off the agency names. Not all of them are bound by the same kind of public rules where all our salaries are posted, and I didn't want to get some sort of situation where this case manager is making more than this case manager at two different agencies. So, and if I don't have enough, I can bring things more. But so the conversation was kind of about what we set our minimum application amount as. And so I had initially proposed 80,000, and then it was sort of, well, what was that based off of? And let's look at that a little more closely. So if you look at mean, median, it feels like maybe that 60 is maybe a better place to set that at. I should say that this is not to say that every application has to just propose one new staff. They can propose staff and a half, they can propose two. They need to tell us what they need, and then we need to look at their application. So it may be that the end result or the end contracts are different than that amount. We just wanted to set a reasonable minimum so that we're not dealing with those tiny contracts, which require the same amount of work as a large contract, but we also wanted to have sound logic for why we're setting that number. So this is just a supplemental item to, I guess, what was presented last month. My revised recommendation would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 60,000 should be a minimum ask for public service. So these are applications that would be solicited in August for a start date of April 1st.
Is this right in the center column, 6138, is that correct?
So that's an outlier. There's again, without giving that's why I did the median and the mean, because
right.
that's a very high outlier. One of the legal service providers would have a higher salary than just your average case manager.
Right.
So that's kind of why I did the median and the mean. Somewhere my statistics professor from 15 years ago is smiling, but
But you also have an 1187 too, so.
Yeah, right.
yeah, I think that would have been, yeah. So again, I didn't want to get into
Sure.
the specific agencies, but that one was a bit of an outlier. So.
Any other comment from the committee on this?
Sure. I guess to be clear that we have support to go forward. There's kind of a minimum of 60 as the application. All right.
Okay, great. Any other business? Okay, then we'll look for a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And again, asterisk after July 5th.
Thank you all.